Welcome to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski. Now, when it comes to women's health, most of us try to take good care of ourselves, but sometimes schedules are jammed, we're stressed, we take food shortcuts with processed and fast foods, and life as we know it, it just gets so busy. I've even heard of women getting out of bed at 2 a.m. to drive to the store to get a bag of chips to help calm their stress with comfort food. Now, we need to concentrate on our health and good eating habits to fuel not only our bodies, but our brains. Today, I'm joined by Annie Gaudreault, founder of VEEV Health Wellness. She's a nutritionist and women's health coach as well. And Annie says that women need to say yes more often. What does that all mean? Let's begin. Annie, welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so this is a very exciting topic today because women's health is always very, very important. And, I always think, if you're healthy, you're invincible. However, we need female empowerment and we need it to relate to women's health. So how do we do that?
I always find that health is the ultimate empowerment because this is the conduit that allows us to pursue our dreams, to pursue our ambitions. Okay? This is the ultimate freedom by empowering ourselves and taking control of our health and ultimately making it as great as possible.
So you recently wrote that women need to say yes more. And I agree because, a lot of women are afraid of making a decision. They'll say no because they're afraid of going into an unknown. So we need to say yes more. How does this empower us? What do we need to do?
This came out of an observation of 2.5 years of pandemic. We got really comfortable being comfortable.
Right.
And the danger with that is that it's got us into a place where we're no longer willing to take risks. We have anxiety just thinking about risks. Now, the good old adage of, you really have to get out of your comfort zone in order to gain, 100% true. It's true for your muscles. When you exercise them, you need to push them in order to get stronger. It's the same with our life, right? So we need to say more to yes to opportunities, to what's in front of us, and get out of our comfort zone.
I agree with that. And I'm going to take it to the next level when we talk about risk. People are afraid of making mistakes, but that's the positive part about taking risk because we learn from it. And I've often said to young women when I speak to them, okay, so we need to take risk. And if we make a mistake and we fail, that's okay because that risk builds upon our foundation for success.
Totally. We just need to be in an environment that doesn't just celebrate the wins, but celebrates the journey.
You know what? And that's so true. We need to take that risk to figure out our next goals, the journey. The journey is always very interesting. Whether you fail or not, it's always a good learning experience.
Absolutely. In the journey are all these trials and errors, these successes, and you learn a lot more, as we all know, from those what we so-called call failure.
Yes.
Right? We learn a lot from that. So this is precious as we want to be empowered, as we want to have a bigger life, and as we want to enjoy our life more.
So, and I agree. So what are some of the biggest challenges that women face in achieving good health? And what can be done to address these challenges? Because this is part of the journey as well.
Absolutely. Liz, I've heard you say many times that women are jugglers. And in that juggle, our health often gets found, under the table, right? It just becomes, this last thing that we take care of. So one of the things that we want to be careful about is making sure that we put ourselves back in the driver's seat. So one of the things I always say to people is we need to have a whole mindset change about filling our batteries, right? Not making this a once in a lifetime or once a year, I'm going to go to the spa, but on a daily and weekly basis, to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. Women also need to ask for help earlier on in the journey, right? We are caretakers, so we soldier on, but at the cost of our health. And last, changing our mindset about moving and making sure that we know that small things can yield really big results.
You know what? And this is so true because I've often talked about women reaching out for help because we can't know everything all the time. And so when we come back from commercial break, I want to talk more about empowering us with our health. Welcome back to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski. Today we're talking about empowering women to take control of their health. Now, Annie, before we went to break, we were talking about empowerment. So what role do you think education plays in promoting women's health and empowerment? And how can we better educate women about their health? Because, as we get older, we're still struggling trying to figure things out.
Oh my goodness. Women's health for a long time, the longest time, has been shrouded this cloud of shame. We don't educate girls on periods. We don't educate women on menopause, right? And it really becomes our cost, because we don't have the resources. So I am optimistic, however, because more and more we are seeing some science and health education for women by women. Right? We are starting to see more and more answers from reliable sources. The danger is the Hollywood flavor of counsel that is out there.
Right.
And so I often recommend to women to make sure that the source comes from a credible places. Now, there are lots of credible places, other from, gynecologists, doctors, nutritionists, people who have the credentials, and staying away from the popular people who have a lot of following, but not a lot of knowledge.
And you know what? That's a problem right now. And not only for finfluencers when it comes to investing, but I guess you call them healthfluencers.
Yes.
We have to stand back and walk away from TikTok or Instagram or Facebook and actually start doing some research and stop following people because they're getting paid $10,000 for a tweet or a post or whatever. And you're right. We need to start, asking questions to the right people, whether it's a doctor or a nutritionist or whoever it is. And so let's talk about societal and cultural attitudes towards women. It impacts their health outcomes. And what can be done to change these attitudes?
There's so many taboos around women's health that I always like to look at the principle in mental health, what we call what is mentionable is manageable.
Okay.
So we need to actually call things out. We need to talk about them. We need to put the questions out there and not actually, refrain from asking and be shy. The more we talk about them, the more we're going to be able to trigger the responses to be able to have answers. So we shouldn't shy away. And there are a lot of resources out there for women. So what we do need to do more than ever is really do a lot of the due diligence, right? We need to do our research, no different than we would do with finance.
Yes.
Make sure that we are getting the right advice for us.
Well, the other thing too is what's worked for me, I always go and seek, proper resources, but I always talk to girlfriends as well. So if I'm going through something and I'm a little confused or I'm not sure what is happening, I will reach out to girlfriends and say, hey, have you been through this? Have you gone through this? What were your symptoms? What happened here? And it's always great to be extremely honest with your girlfriends and get an extremely honest answer as well.
Absolutely. It takes a village to be really well supported, right? And to be able to feel that we are seen and that our symptoms or what our experience are valid. And then that's a great starting point to be able to get some solutions and to take action.
So, okay, fads. You've got 20-day challenge, 30-day challenge, 45-day challenge. You've got so many things that bombard us. And a lot of people think, well, I'm going to go on a diet because I need to lose weight, or I'm going to do this fasting because I need to lose weight. Let's talk about, short-term quick fixes and whether they actually do something good for you or whether you should stay away from them.
I like to say that they are quick fixes. Long-term, they're not good for you. Mm-hmm. And the fact is that as we look at all the diets out there, they all have the same success rate. They all are successful by 10%, only across the board. So we need to educate ourselves to what really is going to work best for us. And a note about intermittent fasting, because that is a very popular thing. It's actually very useful for people who have specific conditions, such as diabetes or pre-diabetic or susceptible genetically for that, I really recommend for those individuals to be supported by that type of diet, and of course, a proper diet, because these fad diets are not a license to just anything you want.
Right.
So we still need to educate ourselves.
And we always struggle. Everybody wants everything so quickly and so short term. And it doesn't look like people really want to work hard to get to where they need to be. So when we come back, we'll have a little bit more women's health tips from Annie. Welcome back to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski. Today we're talking about empowering women to take control of their health. Now, Annie, before we went to break, we were talking about fads and diets, but there's something that I think is really important as well. What would you say are the 2 top myths that are hurting women's health?
The number one thing is that we believe that genetics are everything. Before the 80s, that's what we believed, right? You got this set of genetics and voila, there's your destiny. What we now know is incredible. We now know that your longevity and your vitality is only determined by 25% of your genetics. So that leaves us 75% based on our lifestyle decisions. Everyday decisions such as your nutrition, how you manage your stress, your pleasure, sleep, right? Activity, all these things. 75% is in our control. That's an incredible, powerful thing to really be aware of. Right. And then the second thing is that there is nothing wrong with aging, and that menopause is no different than any natural life stage, such as the teenage years, right? Where our bodies are changing significantly. What we need to demystify is the fact that there are specific tools that we need to have access to in order to navigate this transition, in order to have, a great, next stage of our life.
So you brought menopause up. I'm sure a lot of women are going through menopause. Some women have hot flashes. Some women have night sweats. Is there anything that, just off the top of your head, that you could recommend that, might be helpful instead of going on hormones?
Menopause is 50 plus symptoms. So our perimenopause and menopause stage vary greatly from all women. We are not one size fits all, right? So what we need to look at are 2 things. In order to get through menopause as easily as possible, if there's such a thing, is 1, really our diet needs to be adapted. We cannot do anything that we used to do in the 20s and our 30s. Right. The second thing is, believe it or not, but activity is now more important than ever because it is such a huge lever of helping with our sleep, helping regulating hormones, decreasing cortisol, all of those things. So we're back to a lot of the fundamentals, but we need to change how we exercise. We need to go from big aerobic focus to strength training and starting to love our muscles and developing strength. So it's the same elements, but done differently.
Well, you know what? That's great because you've given 2 really important aspects that can help women, and they're not expensive and they're not difficult to find. They're at your fingertips. So thank you very much for that. So how can women be encouraged to take charge of their health and well-being, and what resources are available to support them in doing so? We just talked about 2 that can help women out with menopause. What else is there out there?
I love to focus on prevention because with prevention, we are reinforcing good habits, and that gets us empowered because our health will benefit from it. We need to really embrace prevention because it puts us in the driver's seat of our health, right? So this is the number one thing that I always tell women to do. And then the other part is to really educate ourselves. So there are phenomenal podcasts, right? As you are doing. There are lots of great doctors and specialists who now have podcasts and books. There's the Canadian Menopause Society who has enormous amount of resources, right? So there are credible, beautiful resources that we can all tap into to really optimize our health.
So we have about a minute before we go to break. How can we ensure that women have access to accurate and reliable information? Because some people will say, oh, I saw it on Facebook or I saw it on Google. So we need reliable information about our health, particularly with regard to perimenopause and onward.
Yes. So really being careful to avoid maybe the TikToks of the world and maybe look at, the YouTubes of the world where we have a lot more, reliable information. Women should also know that a survey amongst general practitioners or regular GPs revealed that 40% of them did not feel equipped to deal with women at menopause. So that means that it's even more important for us to do our due diligence, to get out there and to insist on getting the answers that we're looking for and not be dismissed.
So that is important information. And we have one more segment with more important information coming up. So please don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered with Elizabeth Naumovski. And today we're talking about empowering women to take control of their health with Annie Gaudreault, founder of VEEV Health and Wellness. She's a nutritionist and women's health coach. Now, Annie, before we went to break, we were talking about research. And, you look at the research that has been done on heart attacks and strokes and dementia. And it's all been done on men in the past. So there really aren't that many numbers or research done on women that have had to deal with any of that. So we know the inequality is all around us. And I've heard that there's even more inequality when it comes to that whole research thing to the next level. Now, can you explain how this affects women?
It's significant because it means that the data is, in terms of the solutions and pointing to root causes, are absolutely not helpful. Women are not small men. We are,
I hope not,
different and more than size and volume, right? We know that we experience heart attacks in a very different way. We know that we are over-indexing, like 2/3 of Alzheimer's disease are women.
Yes.
Right? We don't know exactly why, but it also means that we need to seek answers and have the proper information to be able to deal with women as they experience these things. It's the same with chronic pain. Much more women than men experience them. And we know from data that we are less likely to get the pain medication that we need and less even of medication that will be effective. Same goes with autoimmune. So at the end, what happens is that women are not getting the help that they need. They're not getting the tools that they need to heal. And we are, from a scientific point of view, are not near the end in terms of having real root cause for these diseases.
Okay, so now let's move to the brain, because now you've depressed me a little bit, but that's okay. Women need brain power. And I know that I was talking to a nutritionist at one point, and she said you need to have at least 100 or 120 grams of protein to keep your brain going. And I said, but I don't know how to do that. How do we do that? How do we do that so that it keeps us strong and smart and keeps us going?
Yes. So the first thing is to adopt that, what we call the MIND diet. What a beautiful name, which is essentially the Mediterranean diet with a hint of low salt. So the MIND diet is scientifically proven to keep the brain sharp. So we want to be able to have a lot more protein at each meal. So I always say, embrace the foods that are very high in protein, right? And then add some more. Greek yogurt, and then add some nuts and some seeds or some nut butter, right? Make sure that every meal or snack that you are having during the day, there is a significant amount of protein. And varying your protein, making sure that you're getting lots more of the plant-based, some fish, and a little less of the meat. So very untraditional to the typical North American diet.
So we have 40 seconds left. 3 health strategies for women.
Definitely, I would say move and move some more. Get more help and support to make sure that you get your rest and rejuvenation in. And then I would say embrace the new. We're back to more, yes. Embracing new things so that we keep the mind sharp. We keep ourselves in a much more space of gratitude and happiness.
And it's not a one size fits all.
Correct.
Thank you so much, Annie.
Thank you, Liz.
For today's closing, I'm going to use a part of Annie's blog that truly resonated with me, and I hope it resonates with you too. Annie says, and I quote, "Lately, I've observed a state of indecision, driven most likely by inflation, rising costs of living, and, well, so much negative news. The air that we breathe seems to transform into fear, which leads to paralysis. And that's not good. It's not good. It's not a good state for any of us to be in." So, from the words of Cicero, more is lost by indecision than wrong decision. Indecision is the thief of opportunity, and it will steal you blind. Moreover, I urge you to stay focused on your health. Review where you are and identify 2 to 3 goals. Determine if you have the systems in place to support these goals. Eliminate as many distractions, negativity, and fear-inducing influences, because there's no greater remedy for indecision than committing to you with bold action and consistency. To your health, and I have to say, well said, Annie. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Bye for now.